SCARS presents Survivor Hour.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Survivor Hour. April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we decided to do 2 Survivor Hour shows during this month. We hope you had an opportunity to see our first show, which aired on April 8th. Dr. Alicia Hancock and I had on set a brave Bermudian survivor, Sherry, and also Laurie Scheel from the Center Against Abuse, another nonprofit providing critical services to our community for survivors of sexual assault. If you did not have an opportunity to watch the April 8th episode, we encourage you to go to our website, scarsbermuda.com, and go to the media tab where you will find all our shows under that tab. Now, tonight, we have on set 3 agencies providing critical services to our community. I call them the unsung heroes. These are agencies that are on the front line every single day dealing with the protection of children. So I'm going to start. We have on my left, we have Detective Wolf from the Bermuda Police Service, who works with the Vulnerable Persons Unit of the police. And next to him is Chief Inspector Derica Burns, also with the Vulnerable Unit person of the police. Next to Chief Inspector Burns is Maureen True, a veteran, someone who's been years with the Department of Child and Family Services. And next to Maureen is Dr. Talbot. And Dr. Talbot is with the Sexual Assault Response Team through the Department of Health. So welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. The work that you do is critical, and I know that, SCARS talks and provides awareness and education around a very small part of child protection, which is, it's an important part, but child sexual abuse, but you are all dealing with every part of abuse. So I want to start with you, Maureen. Tell us about the Department of Child and Family Services. Give us the day in the life of a social worker, because I don't know if the audience appreciates all that the Department of Child and Family Service do, because it's not only about sexual abuse. So tell us a little bit about Child and Family Services.
Okay, so the Department of Child and Family Services has several sections. The section that I supervise, or that falls under my remit, would be the investigation team. So they are responsible for conducting all of the investigations for Bermuda. So, and we don't just, like you said, conduct sexual abuse investigations. According to the Children's Act 1998, we are required to investigate any form of abuse, which will be physical, sexual, emotional, and behavior problem cases are also referred to the department. So in the day of the life of an investigator can be varied. They may come in, it's a Monday, so we may get a referral plenty of referrals over the weekend from the police or from the hospital, and they may be required to go out immediately to deal with a case, contacting different collaterals or schools. So there's no one day, it's no predictable day. That's part of the excitement of it and the challenge of it, because it's a day where you can't predict it.
Right, exactly. I can't even imagine, because I know just dealing with sexual abuse, like, it just touches my heart when we live it and when we know that a child has been harmed or abused. Mm-hmm. But you all are dealing with every type of abuse. Mm-hmm. What do you do as social workers to take care of yourself? Because you're hearing a lot of pain, and it has to affect you. It has to. You're human. Mm-hmm. Tell us, how do you take care of yourself?
Well, we encourage self-care within staff. When there's a very difficult case, we make sure that we debrief with the workers because sometimes there are extreme cases that requires an immediate debrief. We may refer them internally to our psychologists, or we may refer them externally for some additional support. So we make sure that people are taking care of themselves so that it's not impacting them emotionally and impacting them so they're not able to function effectively.
Yeah, wow, that's comforting to know that people are taking care of us, because we're all human. Mm-hmm. We all have hearts, and we're affected when we hear, the abuse of a child. It can hurt somebody who even works in this field and touch us. We heard recently that, over 1,000 cases last year mm-hmm. of child abuse, complaints of child abuse. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, is that normal in a normal year, or do you think there was a heavy year in 2023?
No, I think basically it's pretty consistent over the last 5 years. The number of referrals, well, we may get over 1,000, but we don't investigate all of those because they don't all meet the criteria to be screened into the department. So it's over 700 of those referrals were screened into the department. And of that, 223 were for sexual abuse related referrals. And what we're finding is that in that category, there's a high referral for child-on-child sexual abuse. So 67% was for child-on-child investigations.
You know what, that kind of mirrors what the organization that we work with, the Darkness to Light, their statistics went from 40% when I first started doing this work to now 70% of cases reported are child-on-child abuse. I mean, that's a concern, right, Maureen?
Yes, definitely.
And do you think that requires, I believe, and do you agree with this, that where more parents have to talk to their children about body safety, about consent boundaries, what that looks like, the internet, every child has a device, right? And so I think we have to do a lot of awareness around child-on-child abuse. That's what's...
And also, what are they being exposed to? Because like I said, if it's a higher increase on child-on-child, what is that child being exposed to in that environment that they are now possibly acting out on another child? So those are the things that we'd be concerned about. Like, what are they seeing on a daily basis?
Yes, because if they're being traumatized at home, they may act that out on somebody else they go to school with, or somebody that they're in an after-school program with.
Exactly.
Because children don't have a way of really expressing the pain that they're feeling. So they may use that on another child.
Exactly.
Wow. So thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Vulnerable Persons Unit of the Police, such a critical department. And Detective Wolf, I mean, thank you for the important work that you do. Do you think there is a link between childhood trauma and crime, and you know, between the two? Do you think there's a link there?
Well, I'm not a doctor,
right,
but I do know that there have been a lot of studies and you know, on this particular topic, and it has shown that it suggests that there is a potential link between the two. We know that when children are exposed to adverse childhood experiences, that trauma can increase their mental state, have an adverse effect on their mental state. And so it's important for these children to receive the care, support, any sort of counseling that they need to overcome that hurdle. What we've seen in our day-to-day job are cases of people that have committed crime, and then we find out afterwards that they had been abused in the past.
Right.
So there seems to be a link from what we have seen in our job. But I want to say that because they are exposed to this abuse does not mean that they are going to go on. Not everyone who's exposed is going to go on to commit crime.
Exactly. So not everybody who's hurt is going to hurt somebody else.
Exactly.
You're exactly right. And I always say that as a survivor of sexual abuse, you know, everybody is different and everybody deals with pain differently and their trauma looks different, doesn't it? But sometimes hurt people can go on to hurt others. You know, nobody was there to protect them. So I heard one survivor say, no one protected me. I don't care about anything or anyone. People are going to have to suffer the way I suffered. We've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
We've also observed, you know, when some young people are acting out, we call antisocial behavior, engaging in illicit drugs, acting out in class, things like that. Sometimes that's just their way of expressing how they're feeling or trying to channel that angst or that energy. So it is seen, but that is not to say that everyone who is acting out is as a result of.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have to remember that. But we know that, you know, happy, healthy children will, you know, thrive more if they haven't had trauma as a child, right? And that's why it's so important that we get it right. And it's hard, especially if you've had, I would say, parents or guardians who haven't healed their own trauma. that may be passed on, and that child may pick up on stuff that's happening in the home, whether that's abuse in the home or bullying behavior in the home. They might carry that out. And so, yeah, I mean, it's so sad. I wanted to ask you, do you investigate with Child and Family Services on all the cases? So physical abuse, sexual abuse, do you all investigate jointly all of these cases?
So on a whole, VPU investigates all serious sexual vulnerable persons unit. We investigate all serious sexual assaults against adults, all sexual assaults against children, also any offenses against any disabled person or senior abuse, senior neglect, and child abuse, child neglect.
Right.
When it comes to sexual offenses, we do work jointly with the Department of Child and Family Services. So our unit, we work what we call as a joint investigation, where we say this particular investigation or referral or report rises to the occasion where we need to work on it together. And we meet on a weekly basis to go over these cases. If one comes in over the weekend or over the night, we will work on it and then regroup and ensure that we are giving our best effort for the client or the survivor. So we do work jointly together. Yeah,
that's so great, because that's team effort, right? And not every abuse. Would you say every abuse is a crime? So say somebody makes a report that someone is doing drugs in front of their child or in a home. Would that constitute as a crime if a child is observing, drug use in a home, or even physical abuse? Does that fall under being a crime against a child? Would that be investigated together?
So it would be something that we would be interested in looking at. If you have a person who's using illicit drugs in front of a child, were those drugs held? Is the child able to access when parents are not looking?
Right.
We'll look at that aspect of it, things like that. So it is something that we will look at.
It certainly comes to our attention.
Yes.
Child referral form will be sent to us, and we will definitely, it's something definitely look into. Yeah.
Yeah, and you would offer, I know Child and Family Services offers lots of services to help some of these families with what they're dealing with, right? And referring them. Is that right, Maureen?
And we would get those types of referrals. Sometimes it may be the extreme where the child might have accessed that drug because it wasn't stored appropriately and it may have ended up in the emergency. Those type of referrals would be sent to the department, and we would investigate jointly.
Yeah. I mean, over 600 cases of sexual, did you say 600 or 300?
No, it was 223.
And that's a lot, though. I mean, when you think about it, that is a lot. I don't think we could ever have enough resources in our, in these departments to be able to be able to respond quickly, right? Because when a child has been abused, as we know, or sexually had trauma, they need that help right away, don't they? That needs to be addressed as soon as possible. Dr. Tolbert, Department of Health, Sexual Assault Response Team, tell us about the work, the important work that you do when it comes to, obtaining the evidence and acting on a case of child rape. The child's raped, right? The SART team would come in right away. So talk to us about the important work that you do as well.
So the Sexual Assault Response Team was established many years ago and has really matured over the last, I would say, maybe 10 years. The team has grown and we've strengthened the relationships between each department so that it really is a collaborative effort. The vision is to reduce or minimize the impact that these situations have on the individual, survivors, their families, and the community as a whole.
Right.
So what that looks like for us is increasing training, making sure that we're taking each step the way it's supposed to be done, and that the experience for the family and for the survivor is as easy as it can be. We don't get it right perfectly every time, but every time we respond to an assault, we sit down and we're like, okay, how could we have done this one better? What are we going to do if we're met with this again?
I love that. I mean, you hear the word now, trauma-informed response,
Yes.
right? I've
Yes.
been hearing that a lot. And that's because that child and family has already been traumatized from the event.
Yes.
And so, you know, it's really important, I guess, that we think about that every time a child comes in front of us or a family to know that they've been through trauma, but you have a job to do. And
Yes.
it's a hard balance, right? Making sure that you get all the evidence
Yep.
that you need, all the information, and yet from a trauma-informed response. Are the exams provided in a child-friendly, safe environment? Where is the room that you would conduct these investigations if you were called? Where is that?
I'm smiling because this is something that we're really working to get perfect. Right now, we have a good clinical space, meaning that it meets the needs of collecting the data, collecting the evidence, and it's at the hospital in the acute care wing in a very modern space. And like I said, it's clean, it meets the clinical requirements, but we can improve it to make it a more child-friendly space, and that's in the works. We're looking to have a room that has a shower, a separating room, kind of a family area so that it doesn't feel so sterile, so official, if that makes, I'm not sure if I'm using the right word, but
no, you are totally using the right word. I mean, SCARS will help in any way we can because we love that idea. I once visited a child advocacy center in the United States after I got trained, and the table that the child was examined on was in the shape of a giraffe.
okay.
So when the child got up on the table, it got its mind temporarily off the pain that it had experienced and sitting on laying down on a giraffe and looking up at this giraffe. I mean, we'll do whatever we can to help. If you ever need help in that regard, we would love to help.
Well, thank you.
Whatever that is, because I know our donors would be all over that.
So, Debbie, there is a space within our building that has been identified as being the examination room for SART, but we're still waiting for the plans to get it moving. And it does have a shower, a kitchen, all of that. It just has to be renovated, but it's there.
Okay, we have to make this happen like ASAP because the child could be abused tomorrow night. And we want them to feel, so comfortable, and your team deserves that. Like, when the children come in, you want to be proud that this is, we're going to give you provide as much comfort as we can to you. So I hope that happens very soon. I really do. Go ahead.
The space she's describing and the goal of what we're trying to do is children, yes, but any victim, any survivor can have an experience that they're not traumatized from.
Yes.
So the space would serve all of the survivors.
So maybe 2 beds.
Yes.
A bed for the adult and a bed for the child, because they're at 2 different places psychologically in this experience that they've had. So whatever we
And we look
do,
forward to your support.
we would love to support you on that because you deserve to have that type of space. So if a family calls in the middle of the night, now they go to King Edward. Does King Edward then call Child and Family Services and the vulnerable unit? So say a parent who has never done SCARS training, who doesn't know what to do. I know I've been there, and the child discloses they've been raped, and because we have to think about this in a real life situation, right? So they tell mommy or daddy or caretaker somebody did something to them in their private parts. The parent doesn't know anything else except call the hospital and or put the child in the car and take the child to the hospital, because that's important to do something right. Important to deal with that immediately, to get that evidence, right? Because after 48 hours, that evidence could be gone. Am I correct in saying that? And so what I would like you to talk about, Dr. Talbot, is does the hospital then know to call the vulnerable unit of the police and Child and Family Services? They'll do that right away, and then somebody from one of the agencies goes right direct. How does that work? Give us that scenario.
So I'll let VPU speak on what's supposed to happen. The SART team, Sexual Assault Response Team, is activated as soon as
It's initiated by COMOPS, the police.
Yeah, so essentially, it depends on how the incident comes in, but essentially if a parent, as based on your example, a child discloses to parent and parent brings the child to the hospital, the hospital will then make contact with police first, let us know, so call in 911, and our dispatchers will call then us, vulnerable persons unit, the on-call team at the time, and then they will also call Dr. Talbot's, one of their on-call SART examiners.
Yeah. So they essentially.
And
okay, sorry.
So essentially that is that wraparound service where all persons able who are on call to deal with that incident will come then to the hospital and go from there.
Right. That's a critical time.
Yeah.
That is a critical time, right? In that moment, that parent should be able to take a child to somewhere, to the hospital or anywhere, and then, like you said, the wraparound services come around that family.
And just to add, we are talking about a young person here, so DCFS will be called as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
And so DCFS's on-call team, they will come out as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have another question. So if it's a female, a little girl, I know when my children, when they were abused, they didn't even want a male prosecutor. Like they didn't like men. So do you take that into consideration? So if it's a male, do you say, are we getting to that point where we start thinking about the victim and say, okay, do we have a male that we can send or a female? Do we think about those? Because I'm sure you do. Those are things that are really important when it comes to victims, right?
We definitely do. If we get the information ahead of time, if I know if it's a male victim and there may not be a male social worker on, but I may ask, or if there's a male social worker on and he may say, because it's a female victim, sometimes the supervisors will go, and I've often gone, if there is a female victim and it's a male social worker that's on call. But one thing I wanted to stress is that it would be better if people contacted the police first rather than going to the emergency, because you may end up being there for a while waiting for a start to be initiated, because we have to make sure that an on-call doctor, Dr. Talbot or the examiners are available, a social worker is available, and the police.
Yeah.
So you don't want to have a child traumatized sitting in the emergency waiting to, for this, because the examination room is not in the emergency.
No.
It's on a different floor.
Yeah.
Yes.
So audience, if this does happen, it's really important. I know it's scary to call the police when you're not a policeman and you're just someone in the public, it's kind of scary, but that is the right way to do it. They have trained professionals who know what to do. And so give them the number to call if a child discloses after hours, in the evening, on a weekend. What is the number to call if they want that child to be examined immediately because the child has said somebody has inserted their penis or, in their vagina or in their buttocks? We're talking about real life situations, everyone. So we have to be as plain as we can. Give them the number that they should.
Well, they can always call the main police line, which is 295-0011. That goes to our police operations, what you call ComOps team, who will answer the call, and they would take the details and immediately initiate the SART team.
Right. And the SART team and the police, they're not in police uniform, right? Because we're thinking about the public, right? They're going to think of some policeman's going to come, and for little ones, that could be another trauma, right?
Yeah.
Our vulnerable persons unit, we're plain clothes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're dressed like this.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think that, I want the community to know that I knew that working with you all, but it's good for the community to know that, don't be afraid. This is a safeguarding team that care, that want to get to the bottom of what's happened, and get really start investigating. Can you share with the audience what helps you in your work in terms of the community to know? What should the community know when it comes to investigating crimes of child abuse? What helps your role? What are some of the things that will help you when it comes to investigating?
So I would say just reporting as soon as possible, letting us know what has been told to you by that young person and getting us involved as soon as possible so we can assist. Going back to that same example, if that parent would have called, we may, for evidence gathering, we may ask you, based on the circumstances, to leave the child in the clothing that they are in, not to bathe the child before you bring them to the hospital, or bring the child to us. Getting us involved right from the start so we can have a total understanding of what is taking place, so we can help and achieve best evidence.
The other thing is that we're keeping in mind the length of time. So if a child disclosed that something happened 2 weeks ago, SARD is not initiated for that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good
But,
point.
but there's longer than 48 hours. So
Yeah.
the window, the evidence is showing that 5 days, up to 5 days, we can find something to help the police with their investigations. But beyond that, we focus on restorative care.
I love it. Yeah. We don't know that, right? If we don't know what we don't know. So
Right.
this is why shows like this are important. It's more than just, you know, our survivor voices are so important, but we also have to know how the the people on the front line, what they need to make this process as easy as they can on the victim and their affected family, right?
And I would say as a parent, it's really important to support your child through it. Try to resist the urge to interrogate them about what happened. Let the professionals do what they need to do. They've all been trained. Each member of the team is specialized in their area, and they will go through the process with the survivor's best interests at heart. So I will do my best to get the best evidence I can get. And the same applies for the VPU in terms of the line of questioning. And the social workers at DCFS will add their layers of support every step of the way.
That's very important. It's not up to the community to investigate, interrogate. That's not your job. As you know, I know you love your child or your niece, nephew, grandchild, maybe your, the person in your camp or your student. But let the professionals do their job. Do not ask detailed questions. Those details have to be. Go ahead.
And that is important, Debbie, because oftentimes, and research will show, children don't often want to repeat their story or the situation more than once or twice. So the more individuals that have questioned the child contaminates the investigation, impacts our ability to get a pure statement from the child. So we ask that they not do their own little preliminary investigation before it's reported to the authorities.
You're hearing that, right? I know you're upset. This is somebody in front of you, a little child that you love. You need to know what happened, but please leave the details to the professionals. It's very important, the investigation. And it really helps when it comes to time for them to be questioned by the professionals. Know that they are the professionals. They know what they're asking. They know what to do. You don't want anything to contaminate, as Maureen said, this investigation. If a child discloses, say, let's give a real life situation. A child is spending the night with their friend, and the child tells the friend's parents that they have been abused. This could happen because they love their friend's parents. Their friend's parents have them over on the weekend, and they do fun stuff with them and say they've developed a relationship with their own child that's open, and they can say whatever they feel, and it's okay. And they feel safe telling their friend's parents. What do the friend's parents do with that report? What is the right thing the community needs to know? Because it could be your child's friend who comes and tells you that your child's friend has been abused, and this little person has come to you and to provide you this information. SCARS teaches you in the SCARS training, how to ask open-ended questions, don't overreact. We provide all those tools. But it's really important you hear from the professionals the right thing to do if a child comes and discloses.
I would say it depends on who the alleged perpetrator is. So if it's someone within the household that the child lives, then I would say definitely report it right away. And we say that to professionals and non-professionals, because by you telling the parent, the parent may be the perpetrator or someone within the household, and you're placing the child at risk. If you then go and disclose this information to that parent prior to us being able to conduct an investigation, the child may then recant because they're being pressured by family members to not disclose or to give this information to us. So if it's definitely in the household, I would say you need to report it to us right away. I know it may impact the relationship that you may have with that person, but ultimately, the primary focus should be on the protection of that child.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. That's exactly right. it really is. This is difficult because we have relationships. But if a child says, depending on the relationship, so if it says another friend did it, then they can call their parents and say, listen, what do you say in a situation? So you're saying it depends on who the perpetrator was. If the child says, he says, you know, Uncle so-and-so is doing it. It could be one of the parents' brother or their brother. Could be a close family member. Should they still call family services?
Still call.
Yeah. So call Child and Family Services and or the police.
And
call the unit of the police. And they work jointly together on these cases, as you heard earlier. But it's very important, as Maureen True said, the most important thing is the protection of that little one. And yeah, there are going to be some adults that might not be happy, but all you care about is that little one, and you want to get that little one protected and that case investigated as soon as possible. Is that right?
Yes, definitely.
And we have to also consider mandatory reporting. So anyone who has that information of that there's abuse taking place and they are aware of it, so if a child informs an adult, they should be reporting it.
Yeah, everyone, right? We're all mandated reporters. The Children's Act is very clear. It's been in effect for eons, years and generations. And thank goodness in this country we have that. And what it says is children are a priority.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are just grateful for all of your agencies. I mean, we have to realize that child protection is very important. And these are the agencies on the front line dealing with more than just sexual abuse. What SCARS deals with, you're talking about physical abuse, emotional abuse, right? Sexual abuse.
Neglect.
I mean, children don't ask to come in this world.
Exposed to domestic violence. That's a big one, right?
That's a big increase.
Say that again.
Exposure to domestic violence. People think, the child's in the next room,
And doesn't hear it.
Exactly. We have many and many of cases daily of that nature.
Yeah.
And if police go to that residence, being called to a domestic abuse situation, we are going to hear about it because they are going to inform us through a child referral form.
Good. And they should. Because no child should be witnessing abuse. Please, everyone, put your child first. You have some fights and disagreements. Do that when that child is not around, because that is damaging and it can affect a child when they see abuse, and they may copy that abuse on another child at school. So, this is a plea to our parents. Get some help. If you're dealing with a situation that is that has escalated, please reach out for some help, because that little one is being affected. That will carry on into their adulthood, and we're begging you. Please do whatever you can to figure out what's going on with the two of you, so that child does not have to witness it. It is not that child's responsibility to take care of you. It's your responsibility to take care of that child and make sure they're not witnesses of abuse. So we're going to take a short break, and thank you so much. We'll be right back.
April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Children depend on every single caring adult in our community to make sure they are safe from sexual harm. Keeping them safe not just in April, but every day. Whether you're a parent, a guardian, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, or a caregiver, we ask that you take just 3 hours out of your busy schedule to learn what you can do to make sure the precious children in your life are protected. They are worth it. Join the 13,000 SCARS certified adults by simply visiting our website to sign up for a free SCARS training session. Learn about online and body safety, how to protect them, and how to respond if they are harmed. This information is vital to their well-being and their future. Because they are children, it is our responsibility, Bermuda, to protect them. Visit scarsbermuda.com and learn what you can do to help the child in your life stay safe.
SCARS presents Survivor Hour.
Welcome back, everyone. We are on set with the Department of Child and Family Services, Maureen True. We're on set, as you've seen, with the Vulnerable Person Unit of the Bermuda Police Service, Chief Inspector Derica Burns and Detective Wolf, and also Dr. Tolbert from the Department of Health with our Sexual Assault Response Team. And I want to talk a little bit about red flag perpetrators. How do we best address red flag perpetrators without breaking the law ourselves. So, for example, I might receive a call at the office, someone who was in their 30s was raped by somebody, and when they were 14 years old, and in the early 80s, and it was never reported. And then they knew of somebody who got assaulted years later from the same person, somebody in their family. And now they see that this person is going to be caring for kids. This is a real situation. And now they're not going to show up in a background check because the organization who's going to take care of the children they do their due diligence, but this person's not going to show up in a background check. Perpetrators are manipulators. They're going to make sure they're the best at what they can do. They're the best person for this job, taking care of these children. How does the public deal with that? How can a member of the public, do you have a list of red flag perpetrators where somebody can call the Bermuda Police Service and say, I have a real concern with this person, or even if I can, as an advocate in the community, because we're afraid that this person might pose a risk, or do I call the place where this person was going to go work and just put them on notice that this person's working for them? And we've heard that because not everybody reports. But the problem with not reporting is that we cannot do anything with perpetrators who then going to go continue to work with kids, but who committed crimes against children decades ago. What's your advice?
So I'm assuming you're talking about a case where it's been to court, and they not been to court at all.
The case has not been to court, but it could be.
It could go to court.
That could be another situation where the person is, but if that person has been convicted of a case years ago and then goes to work for children, are they still sitting on the convicted sex offender list, or have they been expunged? Because after 10 years, we know some names are expunged. We do know that. They get expunged. I don't know who makes that decision, but they do come off that list. So then they won't. They can, right? They can. Will they still show up in a background check? Someone who's been convicted? Let's start with that. Do you think they'll still they'll come up on a background check?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. It's always on
they might come off the sex offender register.
Right. But it's convictions is always on the convictions.
Always be there.
And employers, please do your background checks, because that's really important, right? You just want to rule out anybody that could pose a danger to the children you're responsible for. But let's say someone who never reported, and now somebody who's known is now going to be working with children. This is real life. This is stuff that happens. What do we do in a case like that? Is there an answer to that?
It's hard to be.
Yeah, it's difficult. But I first of all, I would encourage the person, to come forward, so that we can investigate it and potentially put, this matter before the courts. But like you mentioned, if a person has gone to court and convicted, they're on the registry, right? They're on the child abuse register. If they are not before the courts, they're not on the register, and there's no restrictions per se, right?
Right.
But I would just encourage people, if they see anything suspicious, if any suspicious activity, any evidence of any sort that would lead to an investigation or, a belief that they are doing something illegal, then it should be brought to the attention of the appropriate authorities so that we can start an investigation.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why
that's basically it. Yeah.
It's important the youth-serving organizations in our country do their due diligence. Ask for that background check. Monitor people after you hire them. Put in your safe social media policy, your transportation policy, your travel policy. Make sure, no isolated one-on-one. Please make sure that you're doing your due diligence, because sex offenders want to be where there are children. Yeah. We know that.
And agencies should do more, talking to our kids, educating them, especially little ones, about good touch and bad touch, and reinforcing the message year after year, so that it's stuck in their head.
Yeah.
Because perpetrators, they don't want, if children know this, then they may take a,
they don't want to get caught.
Exactly. They don't want to get caught. So they may take
they're
step
not
back.
Target a child who might tell.
Exactly.
So parents and guardians, It's your job at home. This isn't a one-time conversation. You start early and talk to your children about body safety, and let them know they can tell you anything about anyone that makes them feel uncomfortable. It's very important. You're the best protection for your child.
And Debbie, we also do a child abuse check. So when someone wants to work with a child, we often get the referral, especially with the daycare babysitters. the health department would send the referrals to us, and we would do a background check on that individual within our system. So they may not have been convicted, but it may be substantiated in our system that they were identified as a perpetrator.
Maureen, thank you. So can I say this? Can any organization who opens their doors to children find out if somebody's on the child abuse registry?
There's a form that people fill out, and one of the questions, the feedback would be they're on the child abuse register, they've had an investigation, and whether it was substantiated or not.
There you go, everyone. So where can they find this form? Can I put that form on our website? I'd like to have that, and then tell them where to go on your website. That's really important. If you're going to open your doors to children, whether you're a sporting organization, a church, a school, a camp, a club, please check the child abuse registry, because not every sex offender is going to sit on a sex offender list. Not every sex offender is going to come up on a background check, right? Because not everybody's reported. A lot of cases go unreported of sexual abuse, but that doesn't make perpetrators who have harmed children still safe. So you want to make sure they don't come and work at your organization. Please reach out to the Department of Child and Family Services for the Child Abuse Registry by filling out a form, and please do your background check through the Bermuda Police Service.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Any last words? I mean, I have a last word, but which is a gratitude, a thank you for the work that you all do every single day on the front lines, making sure that our children are protected. I mean, I know as a community, and even as me, as someone who works, in this field for a lot less time than the people on this panel, but I will get frustrated if a case doesn't go to court, as quickly as it should, or it hasn't been dealt with. It's just so frustrating, and I know families get frustrated. What's going on with our court system? Are we up to date? Are we far behind? I know COVID was 3 years and the cases got, held behind. I mean, do we have a priority for child cases, or is there?
So there was the Amendment Act, the Child Amendment Act of 2019, basically made sexual abuse cases a priority for the courts and for the police to investigate. So they're supposed to be pushing them through. And I feel like in the last year or two, especially with the introduction of these special measures where they don't have to physically testify in court, we saw quite a few cases last year where there were convictions. So I think that progress has been made.
Yay. Yay, that's good news.
It's not perfect, but it's improving.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Because think about a little child who's waiting for their case to be heard, and they just want this over with. It's really important that we get these cases heard quickly.
The challenge that we're also encountering is that we can identify that this has been a traumatic event for a child. And most professional psychologists don't want to provide the support to a child prior to it going to court, which is a challenge. Where do we refer these children that need this emotional support? No, they're not supposed to talk about what happened to that child in therapy, but they should be available to provide the support. And they don't, because they don't want to be called as a witness in the case. So that's a challenge that we're definitely encountering, because if you have these cases, children need to be supported.
Yeah, but what if a child wants to talk about what happened to them with that therapist? That's how they're going to get better. That's how they're going to, get out what happened to them and ask some questions, but they're not allowed to do that with that.
You shouldn't.
So I can kind of understand a psychologist, because if that child wants to talk and that psychologist says, well, we can't talk about it. Let's talk about what happens at home and not talk about that trauma. That I can understand as a therapist. I wouldn't want to. That would be scary for me, because and it would be frustrating that I wouldn't be able to help the child with walking them through the steps of what happened. I wish that was something we could fix, where, but I know there's the court of law, and there are, advocates for the offenders. And so that's a real problem.
I don't want to get into where the therapist, they may say that the therapist suggested what the child is testifying on.
Yeah, so no wonder.
But they still need the emotional support. The family needs the emotional support.
Yeah, but it's hard to have emotional support when you can't talk about what the emotional support is. That's really difficult. But you're right, they do need the help. But how do you help them if you can't talk about what hurt them? That's kind of what I think about. But let's talk about cyber safety. That is a hot topic.
Yeah.
Give us some what you're seeing in the cyber world, cyber safety world. Do we have cybertips.bm anymore? Is that existing? Still exists? because that was a great website. I referred a lot of people to that website.
It's still active.
I don't think it's active.
Oh, what a shame.
But we do the vulnerable persons unit when, we are extremely busy. The team is extremely busy, but we do, go out to schools and educate the teens and younger people on cyber safety. Yes, because we're seeing a lot of children using, all these different social media platforms.
Yes.
Goodness, I can't even.
All the TikTok and all the other gaming, online gaming.
And there are predators out there.
Yeah. There are.
Looking and messaging them and they're
catfishing. Isn't that I heard about that here. It's already here in Bermuda.
You provide a child a phone, your child a phone, understand what those applications are, what are they able to do, what they can and can't do, what you want them to do on these applications.
Excuse me, you're not prying, you're protecting your child. You're not prying in your child's business, you're protecting them actually.
If I pay the bill, I'm checking my
Yes, do your due diligence.
One example I would use, everyone, you grew up saying to children, I heard it from my parents, you don't open the door to strangers, right? But what I'm finding is that these perpetrators are using blank accounts. So if you think about a child they wouldn't answer the door, and they have that down, right? They're not going to answer a door if somebody comes to the door in a black hoodie that's covering their face, because they can't see who it is.
Right.
But they are engaging with people who are behind a blank profile. They're engaging and having communication with a person who, at the end of the day, they don't know who it is.
Exactly.
So I think we need to address that.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Parents and guardians, it's your job. That's your responsibility. Check where your children are going. They all have devices, right? Every child has a device, and they're downloading apps. Make sure that you do your homework on those apps, right?
And reiterating, don't send pictures of your body parts. Because you don't know who's going to end up with. You think you send it to your boyfriend, your little teen boyfriend, and he's sending it to his friends, and before you know it, the whole Bermuda scene,
and it's permanent.
Exactly.
That's never going to come off. And you know how we fix that? We build our children's self-worth. Let them know that's not where they're going to find their self-worth by sending, provocative pictures of themselves to feel good, to get some attention from somebody. Build their self-worth. There are other ways. And it's an offense. It's against the law, right?
When teens found out that this was an offense, they were like, what? Yeah. Really?
Right, right. And
knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
And to add another offense or incidents that we are investigating quite often is when someone or a young person is taking a nude image of themselves. Yes, that is an offense. That is considered child pornography. But we're also seeing a spike in those images being circulated amongst friends and things like that. That is distributing child pornography. So we need to curb that. That needs to be
stopped.
Yes.
It needs to be stopped. Altogether. Talk to your children about what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, what's healthy, what's not healthy. Would your child like someone to send pictures of them all around the internet? Nobody wants that. That could damage a child, their self-esteem, right?
So there's growing support for a move away from smartphones for young people, back to dumb phones. Okay.
Wow.
So that means if the primary purpose of you having a phone for your child is to communicate, a dumb phone can do that. Text, call.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If dumb phones have no capacity for social media or cameras, nothing, no data.
Wow.
So if you are uncomfortable with not knowing how to get your child when you need them, that's something that maybe can be explored. Will they be in the cool club in their class? Probably not. But if you're protecting them from trauma, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We would love if we never had a SART activation ever. We will continue to train and be ready, but it will be awesome if we were never in a position where we had to come and piece together a child's life, a family's life, and a community. Because it's not just the child. It affects all of us.
It does.
We pass it down, the trauma, from generation to generation to generation.
Yeah.
Our success as a people depends on us looking out for one another. It does.
I love that. Chief Inspector Burns, we were talking about some stats. Can you share with us some of those statistics?
Sorry, I just want to say that, this is a small island. We talked about sexual abuse and incidents involving children. It's real. It's real on this island. People do not understand the gravity and the seriousness of what we are dealing with locally. And just to put it into perspective, I'll start from 22 to 24. We've had 121 cases that VPU have dealt with overall for different things. In 2023, 125, and this year alone we have 50. And if I break that down into different categories, cyberbullying, child pornography, non-consensual sharing of images, 19 in 2022, 13 the following year, and then 11 so far this year. Already, and we're not even half.
We're not even, wow, a quarter of the way.
Sexual abuse involving a child, 46 cases in 2022, 53 in 23, and this year we have 15 already.
Wow. And, that, I don't know if that's more about, could be
more reporting.
More reporting, and people are feeling empowered to report. So, wow.
And then we have physical abuse, neglect investigations involving a child, 19 in 2022, 34 the following year. And so far this year we have 18, which is, it's ridiculous.
One is too many,
it's
right? We can all agree, one is too many.
Yes. So,
wow, well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Okay, I mean, it's happening. We just encourage people to continue reporting, get educated on the signs of abuse, so that you know what to do if you see these red flags, as we talked about earlier. Communicate with your children. Communicate. We must communicate so that they can feel open to talk to you and reveal if something happens.
Yeah, and also see that something's going to happen as a result of them reporting, right? Children need to see consequence and accountability. It's very, very important. There's no sense dealing with it and then show that there's no consequence. I mean, when my girls went through this many years ago, the last thing they wanted me to do was report it. But now, at 30 and 32, and I know they'll be listening to this, they cheer me for doing that. They're grateful that I made that report and that there was consequence to what happened to them, because sexually harming children is against the law.
Yes.
It is. And, they want to see a result achieved when they do that, because if they go through all of that and then nothing happens, they're saying, why did I go through this, right? So we want a good result, and we've shared with you all the things that contribute to a good result of that. So definitely report it.
And like from the SAR perspective, we just want to encourage and educate our teens, our women, men, that be aware of your environment, be aware where you're going when you're going out, be aware of what you're drinking, who you're around, what they may, they may encourage you to participate in. We do see oftentimes in the summertime a spike in individuals being intoxicated and being taken advantage of. We're also seeing a spike of referrals on individuals, children with taking edibles. And so those sorts of things, if you're not fully aware, you're under the influence, then you can end up in a situation that it may be, you may
beyond your control.
Beyond your control, especially when you've had a lot to drink. It's hard to, manage that. And hopefully people are going to be held responsible who are doing this. That's what we have to see as well. Responsible, held, those that are taking advantage of people in a vulnerable state. That is not okay either, right?
And for a young person, it may not take much. A lot to drink varies from person to person.
Yeah.
So if you want to be the safest, you take nothing.
Yes, yes, and look out for your friends.
Out for each other.
Exactly.
Look out for each other, right? Have a buddy system, right? Have a buddy system.
And it's important for families to know that it's not just girls and young women who fall victim to predators. Boys, young men are very often silent victims.
Yes.
Silent victims, they go years, dealing with it themselves, living with their mask on. No one knows. Please, please, please look out for the young boys and men in your life. Have the same conversations that you would have for your daughters and your nieces and your godchildren. every child is potentially at risk because you don't know what intentions other people have.
Yeah. Encourage them to speak.
Yeah.
Encourage them to speak up, and they can tell you anything about anyone. Develop that relationship, that trust with your child. Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate all your wisdom today.
SCARS presents Survivor Hour.